Thank you to everyone who was able to join today for our monthly webinar series. We're really excited to have you. And I just wanted to discuss real quick what we're going to be discussing on today's webinar. So at the top here, I'm going to explain the recurring webinar schedule. All right, we're going to talk about the schedule, what's coming up next. Next, we're going to talk about adding new features. So how do you add new features with Howard Simon, and who do you reach out to? After that, we're going to dive directly into our training series. So today I'll be showing you tips around the payroll process and employee management modules. After that, we'll hold a brief Q&A session to answer any questions that you have. If you do have a question along the way, please make sure to enter those questions into the Q&A portion of the webinar, and we'll get those answered at the end. So on this webinar, we just have a couple quick notes to start, and then we'll move into the live product training. So the reoccurring webinar schedule and what's coming. Webinars are going to be reoccurring monthly webinars that take place on the last Thursday of every month. Okay, those will be held on a monthly basis moving forward, and you should have the links to register for the entire webinar series. If you don't, please feel free to reach out to us and we can get that information over to you. But you should have that in your inbox. The next webinar after today, it's going to take place Thursday, May 25th at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Okay, so you actually get two webinars in May because this is actually the April webinar. The webinars are going to continue to keep our clients informed on new features released to the portal or coming to the portal. And we will also be including live product trainings on these webinars, covering a range of topics across the portal. So we're also excited to announce that we have at StrongPoint Partners, we have a YouTube channel now. So you can find all of the recordings of these Howard Simon webinars directly on our YouTube channel. So if you sign into YouTube and search StrongPoint Partners, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll be able to access all of the recordings directly from there. So for new feature requests, I mentioned on the last webinar that you can continue to reach out to your client service representative to inquire about anything that we discussed on that webinar, which you can definitely still do. I just wanted to provide some clarity around that statement. So I want to also mention that now you can email implementation@howardsimon.com to request the following. So if you want to request a product demo, maybe a more in-depth look at the portal, some of the features that we've discussed, maybe on one of the webinar series, you can email implementation@howardsimon.com to put in that request. All right. Also pricing on new features. If you had any questions from the previous webinar about the additional functionality that we discussed and pricing around that, all right, or just anything from today's webinar or in the future, you could send an email to implementation@howardsimon.com. All right, and one of our implementation reps can get that information over to you. Same thing with implementation of new features. If something caught your eye, or that Howard Simon offers a solution that will help streamline your payroll operations, and you want to implement that feature, go ahead and just send an email to implementation@howardsimon.com. Now you can also still, as I mentioned, reach out to your client service representative, and they can get you over to a member of our implementation team. So really, it's whatever you feel comfortable with, but I just wanted to point that out, that you can also shoot us an email at implementation@howardsimon.com. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and proceed. We're going to move on to our live product demo. All right, what we're hoping with these is that each of you will learn something new about, certain modules in the portal. And today we're going to cover two of those modules. So I'm going to provide you with some tips and tricks around those modules and things that may help you in your day-to-day lives. So starting with process payroll. Okay, today I'm going to cover how to add a manual check, some additional details around the payroll batch screen, also the verification tab. All right, I'm going to cover what we see on the verification tab through our comparative analysis tables, validation tables, and just certain checkpoints that can help you to confirm that your payroll is accurate for submission. Moving on from there, we're going to dive into employee management. So you could do a lot in employee management, as I'm sure you all know. But today I'm going to show you how to search for an employee from our dashboard, how to navigate and filter your employee list, opening up the ESS portal For employee changes, I wanted to make note of that too. Employment information, that's a tab in employee management. I want to talk to you about that, how to terminate employees, talk about some custom field options that we offer. From there, we're going to dive into what I call event and review tracking. And I just wanted to touch briefly on that. And then our file manager. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and sign into our test site real quick, and we'll start with process payroll. So I know that all of you are familiar with our site, our portal, how to run your payroll, right? I get that. So that's why I don't want to cover like things that I think you'll already know. I'm going to cover some things that you may not know, and that might help you in your day-to-day lives, as I mentioned. So let me just get our... Okay, so this is our test database that you're going to see here. I used this on our previous webinar as well. All right, there's a lot going on here. So what I'm going to do here is this looks pretty much, like an exact replica of what you see on our live production site. But I'm going to go on the left-hand side under our main menu, and I'm going to go down to process payroll. Okay, I just want to show you a couple of things here with the process payroll module that you may not know. So starting with how to add a manual check. Okay, a manual check in the Howard Simon payroll world is a check that maybe you wrote outside of the payroll process, but you need to enter it into payroll so it appears on the W-2 and we're reporting the correct tax liability, correct reportable wages for the year, taxable wages, etc. So up at the top of your tab 2, your payroll batches tab, okay, you have a new manual check option here. This is where you enter a check like that. So you can also use the new manual check option here to just compute a check. If you want to see like a net to gross calculation, gross to net, and what a check may look like, you can use this for that too. So there's a few different things that we can utilize this new manual check calculator for. So what you have to do is search for an employee and add the new manual check. Okay, when you do that, a window appears, and this allows you to enter in the details of that check. So what's nice too on the new manual check window here, and also on the details window in the payroll process, you can see some additional information up top here that you may not have seen in your normal traditional payroll grid. Okay, so at first, we have cost center structures, we have base hourly rates. If you track accruals through payroll, you'll see accrual balances here on this view too. So just maybe some useful information. What I'm going to use in this example is a check that you wrote outside of the payroll system. Say you wrote a check for $500 to a new hire, you just had to get the new hire paid. Okay, you didn't have a payroll coming up for 2 weeks. You didn't want to run an off cycle for one check. All right, you cut them a check outside of payroll. Now we need to get that entered into our payroll so the employee's W-2 is accurate. All right, in that case, you wrote the check for $500 just to ballpark it, and you'll make up the difference on the next check, your actual check date. So what I'm going to do here is select the net to gross radio button here. For my amount, I'm going to enter in $500. All right, from here over on the left-hand side, I'm going to click calculate. You'll see that the system has stated that a check has changed, the recalculation is required, and it's recalculating my paycheck. What this is doing is it's computing the taxes behind the scenes. All right, so our taxes are calculating any deductions from the employee's paycheck that are set up. So you'll see on the left-hand side, we have gross earnings. In the middle, we have deductions from gross. Over to the right-hand side, we have our employee withheld taxes. And in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see that net payment for a flat $500. All right, so this is exactly what I want. All right, but in a real world scenario, I probably wouldn't want these two deductions to occur. Let's just say they shouldn't have started yet. I need to manually block those from this manual check. Under options here, and you'll see options under or next to gross earnings, deductions from gross, and also employee taxes, so that you can utilize that too in your normal day-to-day payroll. So if you ever need to override somebody's deductions for just one paycheck, or maybe override their tax rate for whatever reason, for one check date only, you can make that sort of change in this view. Okay, and I'll show you how to get to this view outside of the manual check calculator as well. What I'm going to do though in my made up example here, I'm going to go ahead and block these deductions. I don't want them to appear here. So you'll see you have a block unblock deductions and block all. In this case, I'm going to select block all. and click yes. All right, so my check again is going to, first of all, remove my deductions. It's saying that the check has changed and a recalculation is required at this point. But the system's just removing those deductions kind of behind the scenes there. All right, the end goal here, we're still going to get to that $500 net payment in this example. Okay, it's just going to look a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and click calculate here to recalculate my paycheck. After this is done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on save check to save this as a check to my upcoming check date or my current check date that's open. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on save check here. When you do that, you have to choose the primary bank account on file. On your live sites, you should just see one account option here, and it would say primary account. Okay, again, test site, some strange things going on. And then you could even record the check number. So the check number that you wrote the check with outside of our payroll system, you can record that. And in this case, I'm just going to click save. So that is how you can save a new manual check to your payroll process. It's again, you can utilize a lot of those tools too in your day-to-day payroll operations. All right, and I'll kind of show you that in the detail view. So one other final note on manual checks is when you do add a manual check to your payroll process, you'll see here it generated this additional batch called batch VM. So VM stands for voids and manuals. You'll see that if you void a check too from an employee's pay history. All right, so same concept though, it creates that additional check, all right, and puts it into a batch. And that is how you add a manual check. So from here, I want to dive into just some details that you may not know about on this same tab. All right, to start here, up at the very top, you'll see on our test site, we have a time import option. All right, you may not have known this, but whether you're a Howard Simon time and attendance client or not, you can still have a time import. All right, so if you're manually entering data for a good amount of employees, and it takes you a lot of time, say you have an Excel spreadsheet, right, that you're keying data off of, or you do have an outside time and attendance vendor that you use, we can create a time import file. So you can click on time import and click on an import button to pull all that data into the payroll process. So really present day, not a lot of clients should be manually entering data into their payroll process. So if that's something you want to discuss, again, please reach out to us and we could take a look at that. We could really work with any file format for that. So you can actually set up a custom time import file and just import that data. All right. Whether you click import here, it'll come up with a browse option. You could just browse on your desktop, select that file and load it into your payroll grid. All right. So I wanted to point that out. I just want to make sure that, if a lot of you are manually entering, hours and amounts into the payroll process and it's taking you a long time, let's maybe discuss that time import and possibly getting that implemented. So some other details around the payroll batch screen that I just wanted to discuss real quick. So first of all of you have been set up with this grid view here. Okay, so this grid view is fully customizable, how it's sorted, what we see here, right, and what we can do. So all of these columns over to the right-hand side are earning codes, all right? And you'll see earning codes with a clock symbol, which indicates hours, or earning codes with a dollar symbol, which indicates flat dollar amounts. All right, so with these, you can actually click and drag, okay, just to reorganize these if you wanted to. So you can customize like where the columns appear. This really applies more so if you're manually entering data, right? Because this operates just like an Excel sheet. Okay, so you could click into these cells here and start to enter hours. Okay, and it's very easy to do. I'm just hitting enter on my keyboard right now, and I'm manually entering hours for the payroll. Okay, same thing with dollar amount, same concept applies. So maybe on your live site too, you have a column here that you don't need. Okay, using the 3-dot menu icon here in each of the columns, you have the option to remove those columns. All right, so if you have something there that you don't need and you want to get rid of it, that's how you do so. Say you want to add to your columns. You want to add an earning code that doesn't appear there currently, and it's something that you use on a payroll by payroll basis. All right, you can use the add column button just above the layout down below. So the add column option allows you to add an earning, deduction, or even a total column. So if I click on total, you'll see gross pay, net pay, and hours. But just in the case of an earning, you could select the earning code from your applicable earning code drop-down menu here. You can select that code and then choose if it's a flat dollar amount or hours. All right, so you can choose that from the type drop-down menu and click add. So what I'm getting at is this grid is fully customizable. All right, and you may not have known that. So you can, manipulate this grid to however it works best for your specific payroll process. All right, and I wanted to point that out. Also, too, at the bottom of each column, you'll see totals. Okay, so it's a running total for those columns. So if you have like a spreadsheet that you're keying off of or a report, and you need a quick way to verify that, that might help you too. So I wanted to point that out. Before, when I was on the manual check screen and that window popped up and I keyed in the details of my check. All right, there's also ways to view quick details for an employee's check directly from the payroll process tab. Over to the left-hand side, we have an I button. Okay, this is so you can view the details of the check. All right, if I click that, the same window or very similar window to what we saw on the manual check screen appears. So you can see all the details, what's going on behind the scenes. You'll see all of the earnings, all of the deductions going on, employee taxes, any net payment associated with this check. You'll see all of that there, including the details above that I mentioned before. Okay, so you could even operate from this view if you wanted to, but it is a nice quick way to just view the details. If something, if you just wanted to check something like, hey, I think that this employee enrolled in the 401k plan, I just want to check real quick to see if they have a deferral on this check stub. You could click on that detail icon to view the details of that specific check. Okay, now there's things that you could do from this view too. So you can actually manipulate the check from this view as well. Okay, so you could go ahead under the edit payment details option here. This again is a table to where you can enter in hours, rates, amounts, allocate hours to different cost centers or department structures directly from this view. Okay, so there's a lot that you can do here too. If you don't see an earning code that appears here right now, you could click the plus earn. Same thing with the DAD, tax, or column. All right, so there's a lot of customization that can go into this view too that may help you in your day-to-day life. From this view as well, okay, there's a couple more options that I wanted to show you. You can add a check from this view, and you can also do that from the payroll grid view, which I'll show you in a moment. All right, but you can add a check from this view to your batch. Okay, it allows you to choose your batch, the check type. So if any of you have bonus pay types set up, commission pay types or check types set up, okay, you can choose those from this drop-down menu. And you can easily add a second check. When you do that from this view, you will see another row appear in your payroll grid. And I'll show you how that looks in just a moment too. Okay, but after I add my new check, I could actually customize that check. So say I want to tack on some additional commission. Okay, I could go ahead and do so directly from this view. All right, our check is recalculating. Everything's kind of updating behind the scenes. All right, in that case. So there's a lot that you could do from this view too, in the check details. And then at the very bottom, you could go to the next employee. All right, so you could go to previous and next employees directly in this view too. I prefer the payroll grid personally. I think it's just much quicker to, manually key hours or do anything that I need to do from that view. But this is just another option I wanted to show you. So I'm going to close out of that view. In that view, that employee was Larry Labor on our test site. You'll see my second check as an additional row directly in my payroll process. The other options on the left-hand side here are, again, there's a plus icon to add a check. And if you hover over those icons with your mouse, you'll be able to see a short description of what those icons are. And then there's a black X to delete a check. So say I added that check to the wrong employee. You can quickly delete that check directly from your payroll process from your process grid. Okay, and my row goes away. So the other option too, for any clients out there that do have to allocate by cost center, departments, and there's just not a set way to do it. It varies check date by check date. You don't have any sort of import file that captures that data that you can easily import into your payroll process. You could actually go into by using this arrow next to the eye icon to drop down the details, the payment details for that employee. Okay, so it's just another view. It's very similar to that detail window that we saw by clicking on the eye icon. All right, and this will allow you to, again, customize anything you need to customize up top here and view the actual summary of the check stub down below. All right, just another option there. But there are a lot of things that you can do to, streamline your payroll process. If it's taking you a long time and you just want to talk about it, reach out to us. We could review it with you, see if there's anywhere that we can help you. With that being said, I'm going to move on to tab 3. I wanted to point out just a few quick things on tab 3. Tab 3 is our verify tab. It's an extremely crucial part of the payroll process to assure that your payroll is accurate for processing. Okay, we want to make sure that we're verifying all of our data, all of our checkpoints, everything looks good before you're clicking that submit button. So on the verify tab at the very top of our screen, the first thing I wanted to point out here, if you're not doing so already, there is a generate pre-process report button. This report pulls up your entire payroll into one report. You have different sort options, as you can see here. I'm just going to choose name. What this report shows you is pre-process. So before we process the payroll, gross earnings, employee deductions, employee taxes, net pay, and a total for the company. All right, so this is a great report to run before you click that submit button to confirm that your payroll is accurate. You'll see an employee by employee listing here. On the left-hand side, we have gross earnings. In the middle, we have employee taxes. On the right, we have total deductions for each employee. On the far right, we have net pay, and it even shows if it's a direct deposit or a live check like you see down below. All right, on the very last page of this report, I have a total for the company. All right, we're paying 37 employees. We actually have 38 total payments going out, 30 checks, 8 direct deposit vouchers, total net pay over to the right, total earnings on the left, total employee taxes in the middle, total employee deductions to the right. So again, an outstanding report to pull up before you click that submit button, just to make sure the payroll is accurate. You could save this, download it directly from the portal. All right, below that, we have a comparative analysis table. I wanted to explain why we built this out. So the comparative analysis table, if your payroll numbers are meant to be close check date by check date, this report or this table could help you. What it does is it compares your current payroll to a previous payroll that you select. Okay, so say even the first check date of the month, you're paying out commissions, right? You could choose, you can update your prior payroll here to compare your current payroll to that payroll, just as an example. But if your numbers are meant to be close, this could help you. What it does is it shows you across some key categories that we identified, it shows you differences or discrepancies between these key categories from the current payroll to the previous payroll that you select, and it'll show you the difference amount. All right, what you can do here too is click on this details. This is actually a link that pops up a window. It allows you to first of all set a threshold, in this case, an hour threshold. But then you could see an employee by employee listing of the current amount of hours and the previous payroll's amount of hours and the difference. So you can say, like, if hey, that's not right for that employee, I need to go back into my time system, maybe consult with their supervisor, kind of put the payroll on pause for a second and confirm what happened and if that's truly accurate. So this is really meant to help if your payroll numbers are supposed to be close check date by check date. You can utilize the same detail view across gross payroll and net payroll too. Even the total number of payees, that might help you too. If hey, I have 35 employees, and that's who should be paid, we're paying them, we're paying 34 on this check, then we paid 35 the previous, like something like that may help you too. I wanted to also show you using these, the arrow icon next to these totals, you can drop down some more details. So for the hours, it's going to show you all of your earning codes and the difference for the earning code. So maybe that'll help you to investigate the issue. Net payroll, all right, it's going to show you net check and direct deposit amounts. All right, for taxes, this is actually pretty neat too. So for taxes, we always used to get the question, like, what's the employer tax liability, right? Because in the pre-process report, it only shows you the employee. So we do have an estimation here of employer tax directly on tab 3 of the payroll process. Okay, now, if you're not currently, you should also, somebody in your organization should be receiving an email after the payroll processes with the exact amount that we are going to pull from the company bank account on file to cover that payroll's liability. All right, so if you're not receiving that email currently, we can set you up with that. So just reach out and we can get you set up. All right, but the whole point of the comparative analysis table here is just to show you some additional data, to put it out in front of you to help you confirm that your payroll is accurate. Moving on to the validation table. So the validation table is one and the same. It's meant to help you confirm your payroll is accurate. We identify these points, and this is just from running payroll for a long time at Howard Simon, and all of the kind of like discrepancies, issues that we would find in the past. One of the main ones that we used to get, like, are we paying all active employees? Right? That was a constant question. Are clients paying all their active employees? And we used to have clients calling all the time. They would have to delete and reopen their payroll to, update an employee that they missed. So this is meant to help you. Right now on our test site, we have a warning symbol indicated by that red triangle with the exclamation point. I'm going to click on the arrow on the far left. It's going to show me who has an active employee status and is currently not being paid on this payroll. So from here, I can say, hey, wait a second, I know that employee worked, right? And I could go back to my second tab here and review it. Right, so this is meant to help you too. So are all active employees being paid? Right now on the test site, they're not. Why not? And maybe it's accurate too. Are any terminated employees being paid? Again, I have a warning. If I click on the arrow, it's going to show me who's terminated and being paid. All right, and then all of these other key checkpoints too. If you have our employee self-service portal open up for employee changes, all right, this will show you direct deposit changes. Or if it's just an admin making the change, that's fine, because through this detail, we actually show you who made the change. So these are new direct deposit accounts on this check date. So, if you wanted to go the extra mile and confirm with the employee, hey, I saw you updated, your direct deposit account. I just wanted to make sure that that's accurate. You can do that. Same thing with high risk routing numbers. It'll flag new pays in the last 30 days. There's a lot of validation checkpoints here that are meant to help you. And I just wanted to point some of that out. You have itemized earnings, so total earnings for the payroll, total deductions as well, and a quick table view there. And from there, what you would do is go and submit, go to your submit tab, check the boxes to confirm that your dates are accurate. All the details look good here, the number of payees, everything, looks accurate to you. And when you click on that approve and submit payroll button, Howard Simon receives it and we process it. Okay, so I hope, those sort of like keys and everything that I just showed you, those tips and tricks, that helps you in your day-to-day lives through process payroll. If you have any questions on that, please let us know. From here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to our home dashboard real quick. I want to dive into employee management. I did want to show you just a few items that you may not know with employee management. And starting just real quick here on the dashboard, okay. Employee management, it does come with this search bar. So the search bar allows you to search for an employee, okay, whether terminated or active here. You can go ahead and flip this status. I don't see them in the active. I could even flip this to all right, and I could go ahead and search for an employee. What this does is it pulls up the employee directly from my dashboard, and it allows me to select that profile to work with. So say in this case, we want to reactivate this employee because the employee is terminated. I can click on the profile to work with that employee. All right, so I just wanted to show you the active, terminated, all sort of status options on the search bar. You'll see my search bar does stay with me when I'm inside of employee management, which is great too. For our clients that have multiple entities, okay, you can actually search across all entities. So if you do, in the upper left-hand corner here, if you do have to select different payroll accounts to run payroll with, what's great is across employee management and reporting, you can actually search across all companies that you have access to. So to do that, you would flip this from current account to all accounts. So All right, and that is how you search directly from the dashboard. What I want to do, I'm actually going to click on employee management here. I wanted to show you a couple of different quick ways to navigate your employee list. Okay, so for again, our clients with multiple entities, I'm going to go ahead and just show you. You can flip this to all accounts. What you'll see here is this company column begin to show all of those accounts that we have access to on our test site. Okay, so I'm still sorted by last name here. So it'll show me all of my employees across all the companies that I have access to, which is great. This employee management dashboard too, it's meant to show you additional information, but you may not have that additional information enabled on your live site. So what you can do here is actually by choosing the 3-dot menu again, we can choose columns, and you're going to see a bunch of different options for data that I can show directly on this dashboard. Okay, so it's really meant to be like a quick snapshot here. So if you don't see something here that you want to, please reach out to us and we can get that added for you. But say I just want to see employee phone numbers here, even hire dates, right? I want to see the employee hire date directly on this view. Once you update the grid view here, this will be saved that way moving forward. Okay, so you'll see that employee list exactly like that. All right. I want to show you a quick ways to toggle. So say, for example, you know you have to make updates to 3 employees' pay rates, just as a random example. What you can do is, first of all, you could click on any employee here to select that employee's profile, right? But you can also check these boxes on the left-hand side, and then up at the top, click on the View Selected Employees button. All right, and that will pull up just those 3 profiles. So if I know I need to make the changes for these 3 employees, what I can do is start with my first employee here. I'm going to go into paycheck and pay rates and salaries. I'm going to make my first change for this employee. After I'm done, I'm going to click on the second employee. All right. When I do that, it flips to that employee's profile. Okay. But then it also stays on the pay rates and salaries tab. So it'll keep me on this tab so I can make my change for the second employee, move on to the third. All right, so that's kind of a quick way to toggle. If you know you have to make changes for like 3 employees at one time, instead of going one by one and searching for them, that's another way around that. Okay, I did want to just kind of take a quick pause here. I wanted to mention the employee self-service portal. All right, so that's out of the portal for the employees. The employees can make changes to their own information. All right, so you can open up the portal so employees can make changes to their home addresses, their direct deposit information, and their tax withholding. We do have electronic W-4s available in the portal. All right, with that being said, you could either open up the portal for employee changes and have any change they make go into place right away so it's saved. You could be notified of any change as the administrator on the site, or you could have to approve the change before it's saved. So I did want to note that too. So you have some options there as well. But I just wanted to make a quick note that across any tab in the system, first of all, but the common ones are home addresses, direct deposits, and tax withholding, you can open that up for employee changes. All right, from here, I'm going to actually I could stay on this employee. I'm going to go to my personal details and the employment information tab. I just wanted to show you a couple of things here too. So with employment information, there's a lot of data on this tab. All right, this is everything obviously about the employee's employment information, but there's a lot of additional detail that we may not be tracking currently, and maybe you want to. So I wanted to point that out. So starting with, if I scroll down a little bit, all right, what I'm going to see here on our test sites, I'm trying to find a good example of it, we have the option for custom fields on the test site. All right, so custom fields could be anything. All right, we have clients that track favorite candy bars, favorite sport teams, really any information that you want to track. You can track that. And that sort of information would appear either under additional information or miscellaneous information on our test site. So you could track that and pull a report based off of those custom fields. All right, and that's found on the employment information. So I wanted to mention that as an option. Outside of that, you know, you have your supervisor structure here, you have department structure here, workers' comp codes, EEO class codes, a lot of additional information that we can track here. All right, on top of that, I did just want to show you real quick how to terminate an employee if you were wondering where to go. So you would go to that employee's employment information tab and click edit here. From there, there is a change status option. Okay, if you click on change status, you can update the employee status. All right, so you could choose from the applicable drop-down menu here. This employee is currently set to a status of A for active. This is where you could put them on a leave of absence or terminate them from the portal. So it is in the employment information tab. You'll see I get a message saying that my employee will be removed from all current roles and added to the term role. What that means is if this employee, say if they were a payroll administrator and you have to terminate them, it would remove them from that admin role and put them into a term role. What the termination role is normally it's a lockdown read-only role, and it really just allows the terminated employee to have continued access to their pay history. Also, W-2s at year end, an electronic copy of that would be available to them. Okay, but the termination wizard here is very straightforward to use. All we're doing is choosing a date, a reason, which is customizable. You'll choose your reason, and it's going to give you a note here just depending on the date that you terminate the employee. Okay, but normally you could go ahead and terminate them fully directly on your live site, and that's where you terminate them through the employment information tab. Moving on here, just a few quick class items here, and then we'll take any questions that came through the webinar. The events tab. So the events tab is located under personal details, and you may have seen it on your live site, and you might be wondering what it is. The events tab allows us to track licensing and certification through the portal, where then we can create a workflow, which you'll see if I scroll down a little bit, our workflow module. We can create a workflow off of the licensing and certification expiration dates and notify the employee and their supervisor of that expiration. All right, so on our test site, if I click add event code, I just have some custom options here. You could really do anything. I would say anything with an expiration date is a great place. A great place to track that would be the events tab. All right, and with that being said, you can select the event code, and this next date field box here is our expiration date. So based off of that date, I can have a workflow generate, say within 45 days of the expiration date for that event. I can notify my employee to upload new documentation directly in the portal, and I can notify their supervisor that the employee's license is about to expire. Just as a random example. But like I said, you could track anything that's date-based in the events tab, and I wanted to point that out. Furthermore, under personal details, we have the reviews. Okay, the employee's reviews, this is meant for performance and compensation related types of reviews. You can again create a workflow off of this review tab and the data that's in there, because as you can see, we have a next review date option. All right, so if I add my review, there's actually a lot of neat things that you could do here. Starting with like just the notes, the rating, raise date, amount, all of that fun stuff. The next review date would be, probably a year from now, whatever the case may be, but you could future date that. And then again, create the notification through workflow. So with the reviews, you can upload an actual PDF document or any sort of document to that employee's review, choose if the review is viewable by the employee. So there's a few things that you could do there as well. But I just wanted to mention events and reviews. If you're not utilizing it, if that sort of data is something that you're tracking in a spreadsheet, I would highly advise that you give us a call or reach out to us, and we could start to track that information directly in the portal. We could generate a report for you so you could get a spreadsheet. Whenever you pull it from reporting, that'll pull all reviews coming up. It's just nice data to have in our system. The last tab that I wanted to show you here is under files and tasks and our file manager. So the file manager here, if I go to files and tasks, and again, this is an employee management. If you have paper documents and paper files for the employees at your office, you want to get rid of those, scan them into your computer. You can create folders and add files to the file manager. So you can convert all of that documentation into our portal. You can add the files to the file manager. You could choose if they're viewable by the employee, categorize them, whichever way you want to. Okay, I did want to point that out too, in case you're not using it currently. If your employees too, if you have the ESS portal open up for employee changes, all changes that the employee makes will be stored in the file manager as well, including electronic copies of the W-4s. Okay, so file manager is outstanding. We have a lot of clients that currently utilize it. I just wanted to point that out on this webinar that it is an option. If you have any questions around that, let us know. Okay, but with that being said, that does conclude the live product demo here. So I'm going to go ahead and get us back. And at this point, if any questions came through our Q&A, we'll take those now. Which I do not see any questions in the Q&A portion. So I'll leave the webinar open for a few minutes here just to field any last minute questions. I wanted to thank you all again for joining today. We really appreciate the partnership and look forward to seeing you on future webinars. If you have not received the invite for the webinar series, please reach out to us and we can get that over to you. So you're just automatically included as a participant on any future webinars. But thank you again so much. If you don't have any questions, feel free to sign off and have a great rest of the day.